All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Brandon Smith Law show. I'm here with one of my all time favorite clients, Melisha. If you would just introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Melisha Lovett, and I have been with Brandon for quite a minute now. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tell us what do you do for a living?
I work with Delta Airline for a living right now.
Okay, very good. And I see you got your Brandon Smith Law hoodie on today.
Of
Rocking it.
course, of course, of course. He's the
Absolutely.
best, so of course.
Well, looks great. Looks great. Well, tell us just tell our audience like how did you and I come to meet each other, and how did you first learn about me and the firm, and talk about kind of what we did together initially.
Okay, so I first came across Brandon Law back in 2020 when my late husband had an work injury. So I start looking up, oh, we need a lawyer, and I didn't want to go with all the lawyers that are being advertised and stuff like that, because I was like, I need personal experience. I need somebody good, that someone that's gonna actually listen to us. So I don't know, I start googling stuff, and Brandon Law kind of stood out for me. And I suggested to my husband, and he was like, okay, I'll go with your judgment if you feel like, that's the one you want to go with. So I called him up, and unfortunately, at that time, we started with another lawyer first. And, so he was like, well, if you started with another lawyer, then I may can't, take the case over, and he explained all the legal aspect of it for us and stuff like that. Because my husband had started with somebody else, but I was the one that wanted to change lawyer. But Brandon explained to me like the do's and don'ts in that situation and stuff like that. But unfortunately, so that was in 2020. So unfortunately, my husband ended up passing away a few months later after Brandon and I encountered together, and I have to call him, and I was just sharing some stuff with him, and he was like, well, you know what happened to your husband? And I explained the whole situation to him. And then fast forward, in 2022, so that's 2 years after. Fast forward in 2022, I was in a car accident. And of course, the only lawyer I can think of is Brandon Law, because he listened to me, and he answered his phone. Text message was so accurate, like on point. As soon as sent a text message, ding, I got a reply. So I'm like, of course, I feel like I know him personally, but he was my lawyer. So I called him and I let him know I was in a wreck, and this is the case. We immediately start the process back in 2022, November of 2022 to be exact. And 3 years later, here we are. Finally finished with my case, which he was absolutely great. You know how insurance go. They try to lowball you at first. Um my first offer was $5,000. Of course, Brandon didn't even tell me, like, oh, you know how lawyers be like, do you want to accept? That was a no-brainer. He was like, oh, they trying to offer us $5,000. So this is what we're gonna do next. It wasn't no situation of oh, they're offering $5,000. Do you want to take it? No brainer. Of course not. So we it was a long 2.5, well, almost 3 years process. It was like 2 years and 8 months or something like that. But throughout the whole process, I was always be in tune of what's going on. It was never a moment where I feel like, well, what's going on with my case? Like, what's the deal? Like, is he still working? It was never that moment. Like, months go by and I'll get an update of, oh, this is what's going on now. I feel like dealing with him, I actually learned more about laws and how it works and stuff like that, because he's so like explained everything to the very T. And again, at one time I remember messaging him on a Sunday, and he was like, oh, well, it's family day, but I got you tomorrow. It's not like I didn't get a reply. There was no time I messaged him and I didn't get a reply, so that was great. Um, but yeah, I will never recommend. I had a coworker that was in a car accident, and I was like, "Girl, you cannot go with anybody else but my lawyer. You have to go with my lawyer." She didn't, and I was really mad. So I will never like not recommend Brandon Laws. Brandon Smith Law because he is absolutely the best.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you for so much. And we love you. I mean, you're one of our all-time favorite clients, and you were so patient with the process. You had a really, really bad wreck, and it wasn't your fault, but the insurance company tried to make it seem like it was partially your fault or maybe even all of your fault, but that just wasn't true. And so we walked the process of trying to make a right out of a wrong that happened to you. And talk to us just about like you had a process of recovery where you had to actually get treatment for your injuries. We don't have to talk about your injuries at all, but you had injuries, and that's why the case was valuable. One, because you didn't do anything wrong, and then two, you got hurt really bad, and they wanted to offer something very, very small, like you said, and we just weren't going to let that happen. So talk about the wreck itself, like what happened at that intersection on that night that was so tragic.
So I remember I was going to work. It was like my shift starts very early that day. And I was going to work. It was like about four something in the morning or almost five in the morning. It was like four something in the morning. So it was dark outside. And I'm driving, and I remember it was my light was definitely on green. So I'm just going the speed limit, of course. And then out of nowhere, this like it was like a pickup or something like that. It's a truck, and I remember because I remember my little car versus that truck, and I'm going straight, and this truck just come out of nowhere and just hit me in the front area of the driver's side. So when it hit me, I immediately like flew to the side because of the impact. It was like a and then a
Yeah.
so I was like, oh my God, my first initial instinct, to be honest, was like, oh my God, I need to be at work.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
um I realized that, I'm not feeling well. I probably need to be at a hospital.
Mhm.
So I did not call 911. I was, as I said, everything was just happening so fast. So all the next thing I knew, the ambulance came, and I remember telling them, I need to call my manager. I need to call my manager. I need to let
Yeah.
them know I can't be at work. And I called my manager, let her know that, hey, I was in a wreck. I have to go to the hospital. I did not know who hit me, what he looks like, or the exact vehicle. Like I said, it was 4 in the morning. It was dark. Um, I remember looking around at my car after the ambulance took me out because my car door was a little bit hard to open off to where I got the hit. So they took me out the car, and I remember looking back at my car. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a goner. That's a goner for my car." And so I was taken to the hospital. Knowing me, I'm a Piedmont girl, of course. So I left the hospital that they took me to, and I went to Piedmont, where I did not realize how severe my injury was because, like I said, I was just thinking about I need to be at work. I need to be at work until they checked me up and all of that stuff, and was sent home that day. But then, after being home on a 3 day rest, after being home, I had to go back to the emergency room 3 days later. And then I realized that it was more than that any of us expected that it was going to be from one little hit, you know. So that's makes it even. That's where my lawyer was like, okay, yes, we need to put some pressure on this because this is serious. I could have lost my life in there. So it doesn't matter to how small your accident is, and you feel like, oh, it's not a big deal. Sometimes it's way more or way worse than you think it really is.
That's so good. Yeah, that's such a great summary. And in your case, we had to file a lawsuit. The insurance company, unfortunately, was not doing the right thing. I personally love a fight, a good fight, but if the insurance company will do the right thing, then we don't need a fight. And in your case, they didn't do that. So we brought a case in state court and had to sue the individual, unfortunately, because his insurance company wouldn't protect him. And ultimately, we were thankful that we were able to get all the insurance that was available, both from the driver that caused the incident and also from your insurance policy. Because a lot of
Yes.
people don't know you have insurance that you pay for, faithfully pay your premiums, that can potentially add on to whatever the at fault party did and the damage that they caused. And so on the one hand, we got all of the at fault parties insurance, and then on the other, we got the maximum limits on your insurance. So we got everything there was to go get, and you were so patient through that process. And so help our audience kind of understand why it's important to be patient, why it's important not to just answer the phone when the insurance calls and says, "Hey, we'll give you, a lowball offer." Help our audience understand why that matters.
So to piggyback off what you just said about my insurance, like I remember when Brandon said to me, so we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna file for your insurance. I was like, no, 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 because I was scared. I was thinking like, okay, if we go off my insurance as well, then it's going to be bad for me. My insurance going to go up, which insurance goes up every 6 months anyway. As soon as your premium ends, it's going to go up regardless.
Hmm.
And that's a lot of that. That's what I was scared of. Like, I didn't want to. And it was like, no, you're not doing anything wrong. You have to, this is the way you do it, and da 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 da. Explain again everything to me from, beginning to end, for me to absolutely understand exactly what was going on. So yeah, we did file my insurance, which was, of course it's insurance, whether it's my insurance, your insurance, their insurance, whoever insurance is going to absolutely try to lowball you at first, or try to say no. But again, Brandon was so good at what he do, that in the end it was very much satisfactory to me and to us.
Yeah.
Because of course he doesn't get paid until I get paid. So that was, but it's very important to let an insurance know, like, even if they're gonna call, they're absolutely gonna call. Because I remember I was in the hospital, because what I forgot to mention about my hospital experience. After my second time of being in the hospital, at that time I was there for like 3 to 4 days.
Hmm.
The second time, after I realized how severe my accident was, I did it wasn't an in and out that time. And then after that, I was at home for like 3 weeks of me worrying about being at work. I was at home for about 3 weeks after that. So altogether, I could say probably the whole thing, I was out work and all of that probably about for a month or so.
Hmm.
So I was when I was in the hospital, the last day of me in the hospital, I remember the insurance call, and they started like, okay, so we're gonna pay you, we're gonna pay you for your car, and all of that stuff. And I remember saying to them, I have a lawyer. And the moment I said I have a lawyer, all the questioning stopped. Everything that they wanted for me to say, or everything they wanted out of me, immediately stopped. She was like, "Okay, so if you have a lawyer, I can ask you anything more. We're gonna have to get with your lawyer." And I'm like, "Perfect," because they were like, it felt like a interrogation. Like, oh,
Hmm.
so what happened? This happened. Who's in the car with you? Da 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 da. What time? All of that stuff. And I'm in the hospital, so my brain is like, I can't take this anymore. But I didn't want to like not answer their question. But immediately as soon as I told him I had a lawyer, immediately the questioning was it stopped. So it's very important to let that insurance know you have a lawyer. It's very important to get a lawyer immediately. Of course, you're going to call 911. Of course, you're going to go to the hospital. But after that, get you a lawyer. Get you Brandon Smith.
There you go. I love it. Thank you so much. Well, you're in the service industry, Melisha. You're absolutely just elite at what you do. You're an extremely hard worker, as you've communicated. But in the service industry, there are a lot of things that are very important, like communication and responsiveness, and making sure that expectations are met of your passengers, or your coworkers, or the other people that you interact with, for one of the greatest companies really in America and beyond, that you're involved in. So talk about just what that meant to you, that the firm gave you good communication as a part of your path and your journey, through the case that you had to bring, as we interacted after that car collision.
Okay, so communication. Of course, it's not just Brandon. He have a whole team behind him, a great team behind him. So I had to like I mentioned previously that I was taken to one hospital, and then I had to leave that hospital. But prior to me leaving that hospital, and I went to Piedmont. My second trip to the hospital, I had they took me to I was at the, just a regular hospital. And then
Mhm.
after that, I had to see a specialist after that. So with all those different hospital visit and all of that, when the team started asking me, because of course we got to gather information now, we need hospital records and stuff like that. So with all I had to do on my end was just give them the name of the hospital or the doctor that I see, the specialist that I saw, and they did the rest. Like they are so good at getting the records together and stuff like that. So that was easy. That was good for me on my end, that I didn't have to like physically take up the phone and call and ask for my records, by myself and all of that stuff. So all I, the team was so good at telling me what do I need, and of course I'm going to do diligent on my end to get the ball rolling and giving them the information that they need to get the information that we need for the case. So that they were good at that too.
That's so good. Well, you were great at communicating as well, and we always say everything rises and falls on communicate. Good, really good communication and leadership, and so, and it goes both ways. Our goal really is for you just to focus on getting better. Like,
Right.
let us do the legal stuff. We want to make sure that you focus on your body, and you only get one, and so that everything that you're worried about is not the legal aspect or the wreck, or that we're handling and shouldering those things so you can focus on getting through what's a really tough time. And you did. And I applaud you for doing that, because you were diligent in trying to get better, and you got better, and you're back at it, just crushing it. Absolutely crushing it with your work. So um, I just wanted to thank you for being a client of ours. You are such a warm person. You went through a really hard time with that wreck, but we got through it together. And you'll always be one of our all time favorite clients that we've had. And I thank you so much just for your time today. Anything else you want to add?
All I have to say is Brandon Smith Law is the best. I recommend 1000%. Information accurate. Everything is just on point. I was not disappointed, and I know for sure that anybody goes with this law firm will not be disappointed. I love y'all. I love
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day,
Thank
Melisha.
you.
Okay.
Bye.